Peri, from Fire Emblem Fates, is infamous among fans, often dismissed as a one-dimensional, crazy knife enthusiast. Critics argue she glorifies violence and lacks depth. Indeed, her dialogue is over the top. In a support with Felicia, Peri gleefully admits, "I sliced them up and danced around in the fountain of blood. Whee!" This kind of black humor violence is unsettling to many. Some fans bluntly call her a sociopathic murderer with little to no redeemable traits, pointing to her repeated threats against innocents, maids and butlers, in the script. Others note how her bloodlust can massively undermine the morality of her liege Xander. It's fair to acknowledge that Peri's characterization was deliberately extreme. She spouts lines like, "I want to learn, I'm sick of getting nagged about it. If this keeps up, anyone who talks to me about etiquette will need a tourniquet," with Xander encouraging her cruelty. Critics see little else in her writing beyond these stabby antics. However, these criticisms overlook important context. Peri's bloody quips are played for comedy and shock, reflecting her role as a satire of violent mania in a whimsical game. In fact, the English localization explicitly leaned into her killer persona to introduce her character. For example, in her Chapter 12 intro, she declares, "P for pulverize, E for eviscerate, R for ruin, and I for impale. He." A localization blog notes that the Japanese original didn't spell out the gore. Peri even refers to herself in third person to sound childish. In other words, Peri's flashy violence is partly a translator's quirk to signal her role. Once that is understood, her lines can be seen as dark humor. One fan writes that Peri's outrageous murder obsession becomes goofy because she's so over the top. Others appreciate that she satirizes the war's brutality. She's a brutal reminder that this is war and you are definitely killing people, delivered in Fate's signature silly style. Even her character design and raspy voice are praised as entertaining quirks. These fan perspectives don't excuse her behavior, but they do frame it as intentional camp rather than a tone-deaf endorsement of violence. Peri's dialogue frequently jokes about slaughter. Critics use moments like this to say the game celebrates her bloodlust. They point out that the writing never seems to punish or even seriously scold her for hurting innocents, implying the writers reward her mania. Many argue Peri lacks emotional range. A harsh GameFAQs post sums it up. She is nothing more than a sociopathic murderer. She shows no kind of remorse. All in all, Peri is a tragically designed character with little to no redeemable traits. In this view, Peri is simply a comic trope, stabby party gal, and nothing more. Fans also criticize that Peri's presence warps those around her. For example, Xander overlooks her crimes, even encouraging her to work her servants harder instead of killing them. Some find this inconsistent with his character and dislike that her violence isn't taken seriously in story, as in, Corin and others seem to shrug it off. This is often cited as poor writing rather than a nuance of Peri herself, and as we know, Fates is not known for having the best of writing. These critiques are understandable. Peri does frequently talk about killing in a gleeful tone, and game dialogue never directly condemns her. If you take her lines at face value, you might see an irredeemable sociopath. It's valid to note that her humor can feel flat or even off-putting to players who expected deeper character work. However, a deeper look shows Peri has more context and development than the surface suggests. Notably, her bloodthirst is rooted in trauma. As the official story notes, Peri witnessed her mother's murder by a servant when she was very young. This horrifying event shattered her world, warping her trust and causing her to personify negative qualities into all servants. A fan analysis on Serena's Forest explains that Peri is stuck in a regret cycle from her mother's death, finding joy in bloodshed, but it is hollow and transitory, and only serves to remind her of her tragedies. In other words, her murders are a twisted coping mechanism. Despite this, she soldiers on, loyally serving the Crown Prince. The fact that she hasn't just broken down entirely is a testament to her resilience. This view casts Peri not as a cartoon villain, but as a traumatized child masked in ferocity. On Peri's support with Odin, we see that Peri is actually the leader of an anger management support group, composed of murderers and thieves. She says that she is learning techniques to be calm and in control of her bloodlust, while also helping those with similar problems. Critics often dismiss this support convo, and the fact that the structure of the Fire Emblem games makes so supports do not alter the character's actions in the main story. Many other support convos, such as Peri's with Silas and Peri's with Laszlo, also showcase the better parts of Peri, with her support with Jacob even showcasing her love for the culinary arts, taught by her own mother. The people around Peri, especially Xander, Silas, Arthur, and even Corin, treat her with patience. Xander recognizes her loyalty and potential for good. Fans point out he saw the more kind side to Peri in spite of her violent boasts. Notably, Corin encourages Peri to channel her energy into cooking and supporting others, which Peri happily does. Over time, Peri's softer side emerges. Once married, her husband notes that Peri has calmed down a lot lately, and even the most absurd declarations become less frequent in her company. These story beats imply genuine, if slow, character development. It's not that Peri is incapable of change, but that she needs loving guidance to do so. It's crucial to recognize Fate's tonal blend of whimsy and darkness. Peri functions as dark comic relief, a way the writers literally laugh about the bloodshed of war. Peri's hyperbole is intentional exaggeration, not a serious moral stance. Critics calls for fixing Peri, or removing her, overlook that she's deliberately cartoonish. All this isn't to dismiss every criticism. Some dislike that Peri's violence is never truly confronted in the narrative. The game rarely treats her as a serious villain, which is a fair critique of the writing. And yes, her first impression can be jarring and even disturbing. It's fine to find her one-note at first, many players do. Even fans defending her admit she's clearly not for everyone. But within her story, there are moments of depth and growth. The writing might have exaggerated her at times, but the supports reveal a thoughtful subtext. She's battling grief and seeking acceptance. In summary, Peri's portrayal does invite criticism. Her violence and egoism can feel gratuitous, and some fans understandably prefer more morally complex characters. Yet a thorough look at her dialogue and story suggests a more nuanced picture. Her bloodlust is rooted in genuine trauma, and she gradually learns to curb it on her supports. While the writing never fully redeems her, it drops hints of a kind heart under the twisted humor. Fans who defend Peri are not blindly ignoring her flaws. They're highlighting these deeper layers, her resilience in the face of grief, and the absurd comic role she plays in the game's narrative. So, instead of seeing Peri as merely a glorified killer, it's fairer to view her as a tragic, coping individual given a darkly humorous personality quirk. She may not change worlds, but for many players, she stands out as one of Fate's most memorable and strangely human characters. In other words, Peri may love killing people on the surface, but beneath that knife-loving exterior is a girl who's trying, in her own extreme way, to heal from loss and find acceptance. This complexity suggests that the hate she gets is often more about discomfort with her style than an objective failure of her character.
Yay, violence! Time for some killing. Say goodbye to your intestines. Is there blood on me?